Welcome back to Sip and Talk. So glad to have you with us today.
Hey, everyone.
We're about to get into a really fascinating topic, maybe a bit intense at times, actually.
That's right. Yeah, we're looking at how Chinese influence, or maybe the perception of it, might be reaching into democratic processes.
Specifically in Japan today.
Exactly, yeah. And we're doing this through the lens of one particular political figure, Hirano Uryu. It's kind of a look into Japan's democratic anxieties right now.
And, just to be clear, like always, our goal here is pretty simple.
Yeah.
We want to objectively lay out what we've found, hopefully spark some independent thinking for you, and just explore these, complex global dynamics. We're really not here to criticize anyone, no country, and no group.
Nope, just presenting information, sparking discussion.
Exactly. So let's dive in. Hirano Uryu, who is she?
Okay, so she's a Japanese political activist.
Right.
And she's planning to run as an independent in the 2025 Senate election in Tokyo.
And she's really known for one thing primarily, isn't she? Her, very strong anti-China stance.
Very strong. And what's interesting is how she kind of came onto the scene. She first got public attention back in 2019, supporting the Hong Kong Anti-Extradition Law Amendment Bill movement.
Ah, right, the anti-ELAB movement.
Exactly. And that actually earned her the nickname Japan's first anti-ELAB person.
Wow.
Then fast forward to 2021, she actually changed her name. She went from Hirano Suzuko to Hirano Uryu right before jumping into politics. And she's been really consistent pushing this anti-communist platform.
Okay, and here's where it gets, pretty direct, her policy ideas.
Yeah.
She's advocating for really, really strict limits on immigration from mainland China.
Okay, strict limits.
And she openly says things like, cultural and behavioral differences from Chinese immigrants are already causing problems in Japanese society.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's been quoted in street speeches saying stuff like, 1.4 billion Chinese are pouring into Japan with only 100 million people.
That's a powerful image.
And Japanese are fed up with Chinese. I mean, it's very blunt language.
It is. And, that immediately makes you ask, okay, what's the factual basis here?
Right. Is there concrete evidence?
Well, her rhetoric is definitely strong. It's clearly mobilized support, She went from apparently speaking alone to drawing crowds of 3,000 people before an election.
That's significant.
It is. But current mainstream media reports, they haven't really confirmed her specific claim that Chinese immigrant candidates are actively trying to change Japan's policies towards China through elections.
So her focus seems more on the numbers, the overall immigration level.
It seems that way, yeah. More about the quantity of immigrants rather than specific political actors trying to infiltrate.
Interesting.
And it's also interesting, she actually publicly shared her family tree going back 3 generations.
Why?
To basically prove her Yamato race Japanese identity. Apparently, there are rumors about her own background, so she wanted to counter those and really assert this, core Japanese identity.
Okay, so stepping back, what does this tell us about the bigger picture in Japan?
Well, it kind of suggests her views are tapping into something larger, a broader feeling, perhaps.
Like a pre-existing anxiety?
Maybe. Because looking towards the 2025 Senate election, there's definitely been a sharp increase in talk about foreigners, especially Chinese immigrants. And you see several parties, not just independents, like the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, and also Sanseido. They're proposing policies to restrict foreign rights.
Like what kind of rights?
Things like buying land or participating in politics.
Okay.
So yeah, this trend points towards a definite anti-China sentiment. Maybe even some would say a xenophobic current in the election atmosphere right now.
Okay, let's broaden this out then, because this isn't just about Japan, is it?
Not at all. Hirano Uryu's stance, it really highlights something we see globally.
Which is?
Well, you often see Chinese immigrants who, choose to leave China, they move somewhere else, enjoy the freedoms there.
Right, freedoms they might not have had back home.
Exactly. But then, paradoxically, they sometimes express really strong patriotism for China. And they criticize their new host countries, sometimes even suggesting, you guys should be more like China.
Which is quite the head-scratcher. Why leave if you want your new home to be like your old one? What's driving that?
It is confusing, right? Well, one big factor seems to be the nationalist education many people receive in China from a very young age.
Ah, the upbringing.
Yeah, it instills this really strong collective sense of honor, a deep cultural identity tied to the motherland. It's almost baked in.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Well, there's also often an expectation, sometimes explicit, from the Chinese government itself.
Like what?
That overseas Chinese should act as sort of national ambassadors, promote China's image positively abroad.
Right. Fly the flag, so to speak.
Kind of. And here's the tricky part. Sometimes when immigrants face discrimination or, cultural barriers in Western countries.
Which unfortunately does happen.
It does. That experience can actually reinforce their Chinese pride. It becomes almost a defense mechanism, leading them to criticize or maybe not fully engage with the local culture.
Huh. Like a boomerang effect, almost. The challenges push them back towards their original identity.
Sort of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just left to chance. The Chinese government actively encourages these emotional and national ties.
Yeah.
Through things like overseas Chinese media outlets, community groups, activities run by consulates.
Mm-hmm.
Some scholars even suggest that when naturalized citizens get involved in Western politics, it might be seen by Beijing as part of, quote, political participation work.
Meaning they're expected to represent Chinese interests.
That seems to be the implication some researchers draw, yeah.
Okay, so there's this idea of reversal psychology too, right?
Yes, exactly. That's another layer. People often emigrate because they feel some kind of relative deprivation at home.
Like they're missing out on something. Opportunities, freedoms.
Right. But then, if they face rejection or difficulties in their new country, it can become psychologically easier to start idealizing the place they left behind. Especially, say, if they came from a relatively better socioeconomic background in China, maybe seeking higher education or better pay, they might hold on to this quite strong, maybe unrealistic imagination of China.
It's fascinating, the contradictions.
Totally.
Choosing to leave, but then wanting the world to be more like the place you left.
Right.
Enjoying systems, maybe democratic checks and balances that protect your rights better, but still publicly criticizing those very systems. It sounds a bit like self-deception, maybe.
You could see it that way.
Yeah.
Maybe a reluctance to fully grapple with the new reality. Some argue it stems from not having deeply engaged with cultures outside of China before emigrating.
Leading to an idealization of China and maybe misjudging other systems?
Possibly. But it's not the only story. There's an interesting counterpoint.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen reports like from the Wall Street Journal, the New Yorker, suggesting that some young, very nationalistic Chinese individuals, sometimes called little pinks, online.
The strong nationalists.
Right. Some of them actually change their views quite significantly after they go abroad.
How so?
By experiencing things like free speech firsthand or learning more about human rights issues they weren't exposed to before.
So exposure can lead to a shift.
Exactly. They might even become critical of their own previous stances. So it's complex, not monolithic.
Okay, so taking all these individual behaviors and attitudes,
Right.
How does this scale up? What are the implications for, say, loyalty and maybe even political influence?
Yeah, that's where it gets really critical for host countries. It brings up this tough question. Do Chinese immigrants face a kind of loyalty conflict in democratic nations like the U.S., Canada, Australia, Japan?
And we have seen real-world examples that touch on this, haven't we?
Absolutely. Look at Canada, for instance. They've been dealing with very public allegations of Chinese election interference.
Right, issues around funding disinformation campaigns.
Exactly. And then in the U.S. and Australia, you see this increased focus on things like Foreign Agents Registration Acts, FRI.
Trying to get more transparency about foreign influence.
Precisely. And even back in Japan, you hear concerns, especially in some right-wing media or online forums, when candidates with Chinese backgrounds run in local elections. People worry that policies might start to tilt towards Beijing.
Okay, and this also connects to something else you mentioned, the parallel worlds idea.
Yes. Why do some immigrant communities seem to stick together in these closed groups?
Consuming mostly media in their own language, like WeChat or Xiaohongshu.
Right, which could potentially limit their exposure to, local public opinion, broader societal norms.
We see that kind of thing sometimes in the U.S., maybe with certain real estate developments, or you hear about Chinese lifestyle enclaves in places like the U.K. or Canada.
Yeah, where residents might theoretically manage their whole day without needing to use English.
What are the long-term effects of that, societally, if large segments of immigrant communities stay within these bubbles?
That's a huge question for integration and social cohesion, definitely.
And it leads to another really tricky issue, the free speech paradox.
Explain that.
Well, should democratic societies protect speech that seems, well, hostile to freedom itself?
Oh.
You have immigrants enjoying democratic rights and freedoms, but then maybe expressing support for authoritarian ideas, like saying, your country is too messy, China is more stable.
A view they probably couldn't express freely about the government back in China.
Exactly. So how do you draw the line? How do you tell genuine criticism apart from, say, potential political manipulation or influence ops? It's tough.
It really is. And if you connect this to the bigger strategic picture, it does suggest the possibility that the Chinese Communist Party might view overseas Chinese communities as potential, well, soft power tools.
Or maybe even political agents in some cases, part of their united front work.
That's the concern articulated by many analysts and governments, yeah. And it puts many overseas Chinese themselves in a really difficult spot.
A moral bind.
Yeah, exactly. Feeling pressured, perhaps, to show loyalty to Beijing while also facing potential surveillance or repercussions if they don't toe the line.
The pressure is real.
Apparently so. Failing to show patriotism could lead to social shunning within parts of the community, or worse, could allegedly impact family members still living in China.
Wow.
We've seen reports about, say, students being interrogated when they go back to China if they participated in anti-government protests while overseas.
And those stories about alleged Chinese secret police stations operating abroad.
Right, in places like Canada and the UK, reportedly to monitor and intimidate dissidents. That adds another layer of concern.
Okay, so wrapping this all together, what does it actually mean for democracies like Japan or the US or Canada?
It's a massive challenge.
How do you balance being an open, welcoming society with genuine national security needs?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Our democracies may be a bit naive sometimes about these united front strategies or the subtleties of soft power infiltration.
It forces us to ask, how do we build up our democratic resilience?
Right. How do we defend against cultural influence campaigns or potential election meddling coming from authoritarian systems?
Should there be, say, more transparency around foreign money in politics?
That's definitely part of the debate.
And what about the ethics of immigration screening? Do you start looking at value identity? That feels like a very slippery slope.
It's incredibly complex, a really profound balancing act for any open society trying to protect itself without sacrificing its core values.
Yeah. This whole discussion, it really drives home that when someone benefits from the freedoms of one system, but then consistently advocates for a completely different authoritarian one, it forces some really tough questions.
Absolutely. About what free speech really means and what our shared responsibilities are in keeping those freedoms alive.
For sure. It's really about encouraging that independent thought, like we said, and just understanding these are global issues, you know, not just happening in one place. We really hope this Sip and Talk session has given you plenty to chew on, not to criticize, but just to understand the nuances better.
Definitely. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
Please do. And also, for something completely different, fun, memes, music, wine tasting, travel vlogs.
Yeah.
You got to check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. Mickeytolife. It's great stuff.
It really is.
Oh, and Mickey specifically asked us to pass on a message for our listeners in Taiwan.
Right. Don't forget that big recall event coming up on July 26th.
Yeah. Remember to get out there, show your voice, make your public opinion heard.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sipping and talking with us today.
We catch you next time.